Hello everyone, Jai Shri Krishna, Om Namo Narayana. Today we are going to be doing a reaction video to Chris Butler, aka Jagad Guru Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, who is famous for many things. Most importantly, he is the former or maybe present guru of the brand new Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. So we are going to be looking at two of his talks today, done a few years ago, and just seeing what he says in this ongoing series I have where I look at gurus, enlightened people, whatever, and we just kind of feel them out, partly based on our reading of scriptures and then, other things. I don't tout myself as a spiritual person who is an enlightened being who is going, well, you're wrong and you're wrong or you're wrong. I'm just a person like you reacting to these people. And I'm curious what type of energy they give out and how we react to them. Sometimes it's shocking, like when I watched Jones. Here's the great, horrible man who killed hundreds of people, but yet I was like, wow, I could see why people would be enthralled by him. Whereas in others, I've been like, oh my god, this just makes me feel creepy. So today we're going to be doing that with Jagad Guru. So please stay tuned. It's two talks of 30 minutes, so this is going to be at least an hour or so today of your time, and I think this will be well worth it. So, welcome, my friends. So before we get into this, I want to say that I planned this episode before Trump was elected. I have a long list, a really long list of gurus and episodes, and I'm often looking at this and going, okay, let's talk about this, or let's not, or we're going to put that off till later. This was on the list, and it was really high up, something I'd been wanting to talk about, and the fact that Tulsi was just made Director of National Intelligence, but Wednesday, and I'm recording this on Saturday, February 15th, is really more coincidence than not. I've actually had this scheduled for a few weeks. I would have done it earlier, but my computer was in the shop and I had other things to do. So this isn't being done just because she got in the news recently. This has been planned for a while, and a part of me actually debated not doing this at all because I'm very happy for her. I'm so glad she got in government. But I was like, no, I'm going to stick to my guns. I was going to do this, and we're going to do it anyways. Now, that being said, I got to talk about Tulsi for a few minutes here. I discovered her before she ran for president. I was very impressed by what I heard. I was like, oh, this girl is really cool. And then she ran. She left the Democratic Party, and I saw her when she came to Portland, Maine, and I was like, this woman has to be our president, or she has to be our vice president. She is so awesome. Give me 1 second here. So I must confess that I was sick last week. I've been coughing a lot. My nose has been running. So if I'm hacking or whatever, please excuse me. I probably shouldn't even be doing this show, but resting my voice. I have some little gummy bears here just to keep my throat, whatever, and so excuse me if I seem to be struggling at moments. Anyways, I really like Tulsi. I like to say when she was running for president that she could kick your ass, quite literally. I think she can kick your ass. She's also probably one of the most attractive women in politics. She's very intelligent, seems very humble, very cool, very insightful. I really liked her campaign idea of let's stop funding foreign wars. The problem is, it didn't resonate with people. Everyone I spoke to was like, why is she focused on that? Why isn't she focused on domestic issues? They didn't get beyond the soundbite. The idea was, if we take money away from funding these it wasn't funding foreign wars, it was funding foreign regime changes. So if we stop funding foreign regime changes, then we will have money to put towards domestic things. When I saw her talk, this was obvious, but people didn't get that. It didn't quite work the way they hoped. And I think that hurt her a lot because they just didn't understand where she was coming from. Uh, the irony is, if you've been paying attention to the news for the last few weeks, Elon Musk, Trump, and Doge have been revealing how much money is going to not just regime changes, but well, the news just came out today that it was funding his impeachment and to bring him down, and it's putting money in the pockets of people who don't need the money because it does not going to help anyone other than them, and it's funding things which are completely bonkers. So she was 100% accurate in saying that's what we need to do, and now Trump is doing it. So it's coming true, what she said. Uh, Now, I got really into her and I really liked her. I haven't read her memoir though. I don't own it either. It's just kind of not been on my radar for things I want to buy someday probably. Uh, but then I started reading about her guru, and my feelings on her radically changed, and you can see that change on this channel. And I know this is a long introduction before we get to him, but I really want to clarify where I am with her. I started reading about this guy who's famous for being a part of ISKCON, leaving, founding his own group, the Science of Identity Foundation. Ex-devotees say that he considers himself Krishna and a god, and that's how people treat him. There's lots of things we could talk about in terms of that. Uh, he's famous for homeschooling the children of his devotees and teaching them a very, very, very anti-Muslim stance and a very, very anti-LGBTQ stance. Um, and then being Tulsi's teacher. And the more I read about him, the more I was like, okay, this is I don't this is cult. This is a cult, plain and simple. And I actually did read writing from him here on my channel, which was actually pretty good. And this is the strange thing about cult leaders is not everything they say is horrible. They often have great ideas. Even Charles Manson had a few ideas that were really good, like he was a pro-environmentalist. So it's this really mixed bag, and we often like to say, well, yes, but maybe they're bad, but they helped people. Like, look at what Tulsi's doing. But I don't think that's a good thing to say. I don't think we can ever judge the person by necessarily the results because every bad person in history has helped somebody. Hey, Hitler helped people, so he should be good, right? Pol Pot helped a few people, probably the people who were working directly for him. So, he should be lifted up, right? It gets into this really muddy area. So I, I don't like to go into that argument. I think it's a bad argument. It's right up there with tons of people believe something, therefore it must be true. Not necessarily. Um, so he's wrapped up in all this controversy, and he has actually tried to change his image over the years, much like John DeRuiter has, to pull away from that. I found it really hard while preparing for this episode to uncover new videos of him. I don't know exactly how old he is. 60s or 70s, maybe he's 80 by now, and I found it really hard to find new stuff. A lot of old videos, so I don't really know what he's doing now, but you can find his website. And so when I began getting into him, of course, everything was wrapped up with Tulsi. And so the history, really, really short, is that her parents discovered him, brought the family to Hawaii, raised her in it. They were part of it. Her first and second husband were part of it. I've heard that her entire campaign team was a part of it. Now, is she still? I don't have a clue. Is her husband still? And her family? I don't know. I don't know if they are. I think they may have moved away. But here's the thing. She doesn't speak about this. If you go on her website, it sort of dumbs down some of the religious stuff and makes it very vague. And I wish she would just come out and say something. She would hear with me. And, I like her a lot, but this is my big thing. As long as she runs from this, it will follow her. As long as people go, oh, we really like you, but there's this weird Hindu thing you got going on. Some people say you're a full-on Vaishnava. Others are like, we don't know. If you become big, is Chris now going to be big in government unofficially? See the next Elon Musk sort of character, All she needs to do is come out and say, hey, I was raised by this guru. I have moved away from him. I learned a lot from him. He changed my personality in ways that, is natural, but I've also changed from him. My parents have moved away. We realized he was bad. I've learned a lot. I've done a lot of growing. I'm not the same person I was when I was 16. And yes, I followed a bad guru. And here is a lesson for all of you not to do. Now, I didn't have a choice. I was born into this and, I was stuck there. But times have changed. And that's all she has to do. I've heard, though, she's blocked people. She's shut down people who've tried to investigate her, blocked a book that was reading. I've heard this. I don't know if it's true or not. This doesn't bode well. All you have to do is come out and say, hey, this was my life. I don't regret it. It was a part of me, but I've moved on. End of story. I was part of a group following a bad guru. I'm very open about that. Uh, yeah, if I had to do it over again, would I have? Maybe not. But that was life, and it's made me who I am. Just come out and say it, confess that you were part of this, and say, hey, I moved on. And I think that would knock everyone over. But no, she keeps it kind of quiet, and I understand why she does. But I just wish she'd be more open. Now, when she converted from left to right, I also got a little hesitant because it seemed very slick to me. It seemed very well manicured. Her podcast was hit or miss for me, and at times it felt like she was auditioning for Fox News. She wasn't really serious, and the fact that it ended after so much time kind of says, yeah, this wasn't a long-term plan for you. So that kind of made me disgruntled a little bit and going like, oh, I don't know what to feel. Is she still a part of him? Is she or not? I like her, but I don't like him and whatever. And now, seeing how she's been helping Donald Trump before he was elected and now afterwards, uh, and I've seen some, behind the scenes footage of her and stuff. Now I'm like, okay, I feel like she's her own person. I feel like she has moved on from him. The slick image that I feel was there, she's sort of put aside because now she can be who she wants to be. She's here, she's arrived. I think Tulsi 2028, I'd be completely for her as president. Not JD Vance, sorry, but Tulsi. Um, I think now, from what I'm hearing, she has come into her own and she's in her place and she's speaking with her own mind and her own thoughts. So I'm kind of reversing course again, going, okay, I think you have grown beyond this guy. And he may still be an influence in your life, but that's the way life is. I saw a website the other day that posted up a photo of her going, oh my God, here's a photo of Tulsi bowing down to Chris Butler. And the photo was from 1996. Well, that was the year I graduated from college. Sorry, high school. My 30th anniversary will be next year. And trust me, I am not the person I was in 1996. All right? Times have changed. So I think she has moved beyond. And I haven't seen anything recent that says that she's still kind of with him. And she is devoted to her faith, and it's great having a Hindu in her position. That's historic. Along with J.D. Vance's wife, we have two historic moments in American Hindu history here. So this is really awesome. So I am very happy for her. I'm very proud of her, and I'm beginning to migrate to, not that I misjudged her, but I needed to figure out where she was. Um, and she was in a transition time. Still think she should have won the nomination, but whatever. Uh, so Tulsi 2028. I'm saying it right now. Do it, and you are free to come and talk to me, even if it's a 10-minute interview, just to say, hey, no, I've moved and I've changed, and I understand people have problems with this guy. I do too. That's all you got to say. It will go on and go past you. No one will be able to hold a thing to you. So that is actually all I want to say about Tulsi. This show is not about Tulsi in the least. This show is about Chris Butler. And really, the way I'm approaching this is her parents heard him and went, ooh, that's the guy. That's where I'm coming from. I want to see who that guy is. What did they hear that made them want to move their entire family to Hawaii? See, that's of interest to me. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And this is a long introduction, but I do like to be clear. I think it's really easy to be misinterpreted sometimes. Um, so we're gonna uh, go into Chris now and talk about him. And yeah, give me another second here. Oh. Um. Yeah. I think that's all I want to say on her. Uh. So yeah. That's good. If you have thoughts, there's a window open. And while I'm doing this live, if you're catching it live stream, and you can hit me up and ask me more thoughts about her. But I do like to be clear. So here we go. Jagad Guru. We have two talks by him today. It is actually part 1 and part 2 that I found. As I said, all the videos of him are really old. And I don't know what he's doing now. I don't know if he's still teaching or what he's doing. I know nothing about the organization as it is. I don't really know. And for the point of this show, I am not looking to dig into that. I just want to get what somebody says and what they say and why they're liked or not liked, or what is attractive about them, or what should we learn from them, etc., etc. If you have watched my other guru reaction videos, you know this already. I'm just sort of saying this for people who are joining me for the first time. So now we're going to rearrange the house. There we go. And there are the original YouTube links down below to where I got these videos from, and I will stop and start them and say things as we move on. This 2-part talk is called, I'm totally blanking here. It's funny. I take notes and then I blank out. How to discover life's purpose. Okay? So, don't have a year for this, but yeah. All right. Let's dive in, see where we go, and Jagad Guru, take it away.
Today we're going to be discussing the question of progress. We probably won't be able to cover both the angle of individual and social progress. We'll just probably stick to individual, the question of individual progress. Progress, everybody's trying to get ahead. Everybody wants to get ahead. Some people feel like they're wasting their life if they're ahead. So what we're trying to do is question what is ahead? What is progress? Okay? This is a very important subject because everybody's trying so hard to move forward. It's very important to know whether or not we are moving forward or what forward is. That's really the question, okay? So let me begin by telling a story. There was once a football player.
So let's just pause here. I think that's a really good statement that we can all ponder from whatever point we're in life. What is forward? What is moving forward? I think that might be the great mystery of life. It's not why are we here, or even what's the purpose of life. It might be what is moving forward. And it's funny because here I am. I'm 47 years old, and I've lived quite a life. And I'll tell you right now what is moving forward for me. Now, if you had a time machine and you could go visit the 16-year-old me, and you asked him in high school, what is moving forward, my answer would be completely different. It has changed. It has developed. It has grown. I've discovered new things. I've done new things. Life took me in different places. And it's always this thing. And that to me is normal living, and it's healthy living. Folks who, if you went back in time and asked them what is moving forward, and they give the same answer that they do now, I mean, that's fine. But to me, that just feels like, have you actually moved forward if you have the exact same answer today that you did years later? And if that is it, are you living to your fullest potential? Because for me, life is one of the things is always about moving forward and growing and learning. And I say this on my channel all the time, and developing ourselves and becoming our fullest selves until we can no longer do that. And so that's an interesting question. Are we moving forward? I will relate it to something I was told when I was young. It's sort of one of my mottos. I have kind of 2 mottos that I have lived by, for good or bad. One is experience everything cool that you possibly can. This was told to me by a historian in Washington State, in Bellingham, Washington, where I grew up, named Jeff Jewell. Experience everything cool that you can. He was referring to books and music. took it literally. What is cool, though, is open to interpretation. And the other thing someone else said to me, a fellow named Patrick Stark, who has passed away, he was a Javanese dancer and later a dealer in furniture. His brother was the first white man to do Javanese dance, Terry Stark. Patrick said to me, "You're either moving forward, you're moving backwards, or you're standing still. Where are you? Moving backwards isn't so good. Standing still can be okay. Moving forward is where you should be." And I've lived by that. I'm always thinking to myself, am I moving here, whatever. And there's times where, like during the day at my job, sometimes maybe things aren't moving forward. They're standing still, but it's okay. But at night, I'm doing something that's moving forward. So you can have multiple things going. I live by those two things. Experience everything we can, and what are you doing? It's not necessarily spiritual, it's just life, but it's if you start looking at life that way and you go, oh, I'm moving backwards, you will make changes, and it will probably be for the better. Trust me on that. And you will discover new things about yourself. So always be moving forward. That is what I tell everybody. I just really think we all should aim for moving forward. Or, staying still is okay too. But if you're moving backwards, figure out why. Maybe you can't stop that. We're not all in positions where we can freeze time and figure out where we can go, and we don't have the resources. Sometimes it just takes patience. Patience is the key to many things. Sometimes moving forward may not be something that we can do physically. It's only something we can do mentally. We may be in a situation where we are physically trapped, but mentally we can try to move forward. Yeah, I'm going to get way philosophical there, and we're only 51 seconds in of 2 hours, so let's get back to Chris. Here we go. Jagad Guru, please.
Situation was that somehow, I don't know the exact situation, but somehow or other he got the ball, okay, he got the football, and he started running full speed towards the goal, and he was so happy, and there was a stadium full of people. All he could hear was just people screaming and yelling, okay? So he was running full speed, just, oh wow, I'm going to win the game, and the whole thing. Yeah, he's just running and running and running. And finally he gets to the end zone. Oh wow, he thought he had the goal and the whole bit. He thought he won the game for the team, and everything. He thought everybody was just yelling and screaming because they were so happy that he had done this great deed, And then he found out he ran the wrong way, okay? So when everybody was screaming, he thought they're all screaming. You're going, great thing, you're doing here. They're all screaming, you're going the wrong way! But, of course, he couldn't hear what they were actually saying. So this is a very good example of how people can be aiming full on in one direction, and they may even really believe that they're progressing, that they're really getting there, and they may even believe when they finally get there, wow, I've got here, I've got the goal, here I am, I've got the goal. But they may have run the wrong way. The direction may not have been correct in the first place. So they put all this time and effort and energy in aiming towards that particular goal. But if the goal is the wrong goal, if they're moving in the wrong direction, then the whole thing is lost. There's no value in it. Now, in all societies of the world,
I'm gonna say he's kind of right, but I got to take issue with something. First of all, I can confess that I've been running in a direction, and then at the end of the day I realized it really was not the right direction to be going. We may have all done that. If we're self-aware, we may have seen ourselves going someplace and knowing it wasn't right for us, and we were putting energy into something that, as he said, was going to have no value in it. Except he is wrong about that statement. There is value in sometimes doing something that is giving you the wrong outcome. The football player, actually, funny enough, I'm just about to start a book about the great football player Jim Thorpe, matter of fact. Never read sport books, but here we go. He he said it doesn't give you value, but on some hand, I think everything you're doing, if you're really putting a lot of energy into something, will give you value. Maybe not tangible value that you were looking for, but it will give you something. For example, that guy running in the wrong direction may have felt in that moment like, wow, I'm doing something I've never felt I could do. I'm really just, I'm like the Flash. And that right there may be that guy uh, giving him value down the road. So when he has the opportunity to then run in the right direction to the other goal, he's like, oh, I did this once. I can do it again. You see? So what he got from that negative experience, or the not the negative, but the experience that didn't go anywhere, he will be able to use. So I gotta take issue that there was no value in it. That may not be quite true. There is value in all these things that we put our energy into. Uh, Even negative things, because then they can be educational. I shouldn't do that again because I will go to court.
Practically that we see today basically can be divided into socialist and capitalist. The same goal is there. The individuals in these societies, practically speaking, we're generalizing because not everyone is included here. Not everyone. Practically everyone is seeing that the goal of life is accumulation of those things which will make it possible for a person to have increased sensual pleasure, sense enjoyment. Okay? This is the goal. Sometimes it goes under the name economic development or material prosperity.
Materialism, yeah,
or
I agree with
wealth, or whatever. Okay? This is
the goal of
basically the goal.
society.
Not just that, but included in this also is fame or a good reputation in the community. For example, a person not only wants the material things to be able to enjoy, he not only wants a lot of money, but he also wants prestige. He wants to be able to walk down the street or go to a particular party or somehow be respected,
Yeah.
to be known by others, to be respected by others, to be considered by other people a great man or a good man or a strong man or an intelligent person.
I'd also add, I think he's totally right. I'd also add, some people may not want to be necessarily respected as a great person. They maybe want to be seen as, nowadays in 2025, seen as an individual, seen as unique, seen as something. But I think he's right in that we do want to be seen as something. All you have to do is get on Reddit and see these people going, I posted this thing and it got 100 up likes or whatever they do, 100 upticks. Yeah, that's a person who is now proud of being seen. So yeah, he's totally right here, and this is society. And when you talk about fame, it's not necessarily, your name is on a billboard. It just might be fame in your community, on your street, among people you know.
Or a
And fame in this term would be just you're just known. People know you, and how do they know you? Fame isn't really the right word.
liberated woman or whatever. Okay. So basically, people want that which will give them sense enjoyment, and they also want relationships where people are giving them respect or worshiping them, or at least maybe being their friend.
I think people like to be worshipped. I think people like to be seen. I sometimes think we see these college professors who come out with some insane theory that gets all over X in the news and is like, what? Like, I don't know. Wasn't a college professor, but someone going, well, snow is racist. We have to do something about that racist snow. I truly believe the reason that 90% of these professors say things is not because they actually believe what they're saying, it's because they know that controversy will get you viral and they want fame. Because being a college professor isn't as fulfilling as they thought it would be, because people are not bowing down and worshiping them. We don't do that anymore to college professors. Doesn't mean anything to go, yes, I have a master's degree. It doesn't matter anymore. Even being a PhD doesn't quite hold the weight that it used to. My mother, who is a baby boomer, she didn't go to college. That was normal. And my father only had a 2-year degree. That was normal. It's my generation, Generation X, that really started the 4-year college thing and the boom. So traditionally, that was impressive. I was a PhD, whatever you have, whatever. But now it doesn't mean as much. And yeah, maybe if you go to Harvard and other people from Harvard, they're impressed. But I think the general public, we're beginning to wane on these things. And so I really think that many folks come out with insane things just to be famous, just to have people bow down to them. Sometimes they say to start their own religion. Um, God, what's his name? Thomas Shea Woods, who was part of Ron Paul's movement, once said he would get on TV more often if he said controversial things. Tucker Carlson, in his first book, wrote about there was this, who was the the television evangelist, blanking on his name right now, wrote about this guy, heavy-set fellow who was on the TV all the time, who said the craziest things. They said they would call him up, and he had his own studio, so they would just connect up to that studio, and he would always say yes, whatever the topic was. He'd be like, yes, what time do you want me to be in the camera and whatever. He didn't even care what it was. And the station, he said Fox loved having him because he always drew in viewers because what he said was so insane. And so people, they loved it. And they knew that whatever he was talking about, he'd just be farting out the information, and it would just keep people tuned in because they wanted to know what insane things he was saying. And I think he became famous from that. Jerry Falwell is who I'm thinking of. And as soon as I say the name, you're going to be like, oh, yep, Jerry Falwell, yep, he was all about saying the most lame brain things you could, and he became famous on that. And I really think that's what it is. People are driven by this desire to become famous. So far, I am agreeing with Chris Butler. But also nothing he's saying is incredibly spiritual or Sanatana Dharma or anything. It's just sort of life in general. And, yeah, let's keep going. This is kind of interesting, actually.
Accepting them, social acceptance by others. People accept me, therefore I feel like I have friends. I feel like someone loves me, someone appreciates my existence. This is basically what people are striving for. This is the goal. This is the basic goal of the majority of the people in the world. It's a really sad situation. Oftentimes it's men, when they get around 40 years old or 50 years old, they have what's called a midlife crisis. Because they've gone through like 50%, what they consider about halfway through life, And they look back on their life and they start to wonder, have I done everything I could have done? Have I achieved what I should have achieved by this point in my life? They also start to consider, what is the value of it? They start flashing on time.
I walked out of my 40th birthday party at work. I just waved to the other room and walked out. I just was so furious when I hit 40. It was like, I'm not where I thought I would be. I didn't achieve what I wanted to be. I don't know how to get it. It doesn't look like I can. I was so upset. Funny enough, since then, my life has been better than ever. Like, these are the best years of my life since 40 and a half up to now. and because I changed where I was doing and what I was thinking, and where I just changed, and I got a new goal, and then I was much happier, and my goals were able to be achieved, and yeah, you go back to what we said at the very beginning, but yeah, I was there.
And they start to wonder, they may have spent, their entire life trying to develop this position that they now have, where they have sensual pleasure, sense enjoyment, and they also have prestige, or they have name and fame, or whatever it is. They've come to that point where they've, in quotes, succeeded. But still their life is empty, meaningless. They feel void. They feel a void and emptiness in their life. But too often they feel they can't change. They don't know if there's any other goal. They don't know what else to do. They certainly can't change the course. I mean, they're already set in their ways. They're already set on their course of life that they're taking, that they've taken. They're already stuck in that pattern. I mean, they went to 20,000 years of college just to be able to be where they are. They're certainly not going to waste all that. It kind of comes to that, like, kind of a waste sort of thing. Like they know that what they have and what they're doing isn't making them happy, but they can't stop and give it up or whatever. They can't just deny that is it, because they've struggled so hard to get it. They'd rather try to convince themselves that it is it, but they just don't appreciate it. Because if they were to admit, well, maybe there's some other goal or there's something else in life, then it means that they have to do a whole nother... I mean, it's like they've moved so far in one direction already, and yet they're going to have to admit that they haven't gotten anywhere. That it's all been for naught. It's all been of questionable value.
I think he's totally right. Actually, I'm reminded, I think this is why I sometimes see people in cults, religious cults, hardcore religious cults, more than what Chris's reputation is, and they're in it for their entire life, and they don't seem to be happy. But I think what it is they've invested so much time into this thing. They were told they would achieve something. They did kind of achieve something. It doesn't give them any fulfillment. And they may realize that, wow, this wasn't at all, it didn't happen. But they've spent so much time in this cult, maybe to the point where they have no life outside of it. Maybe no money, no home, no nothing. They live and, they're stuck. That they stay with this cult because they have to. There is nothing outside of it that they can go to, and to start over at 40 or 50 or 60 years old is really hard, not sometimes impossible, particularly if you have no friends, no nothing. What do you do? Go to, some company and go, well, I don't have any experience and I haven't used a computer in 10 years, but please hire me, and I have no money, and it's hard, and maybe there's other things that prevent them from leaving. They just restrictions that have been created, and they stick with this because they're stuck. I really think that's why a lot of religious cults continue, because the people are stuck and they don't want to confess, I wasted my life. And maybe they can't, because if they do, they can't leave, and so they're stuck in misery. So they delude themselves. I've mentioned this before. They delude themselves in thinking that, okay, this is it, and maybe I still have something to work for, but really it's just a delusion. So they never think about the fact that they've wasted their time. And the problem is, as they get older, they need the cult to continue to keep them in their comfort of living, so they have to recruit new people into it, and then they trap others simply to keep them comfortable as they're getting older and they're stuck. And so they're doing this to other people, and now it just perpetuates itself. I think actually that is how cults work. And so when I see someone who has a cult where people don't live with them, I kind of like that a little bit better. Not that it is better, but it just means that people may not be as stuck and can come and go. And I think a healthy cult, is there such a thing as a healthy cult? Anyways, I think a healthier group is one which does allow people to come and go. And when you can come and go, you start to fall away from what makes you into a cult. Does that make sense? I just went on like 3 tangents there. I didn't expect to. Anyways, I think I'm very shocked by this. There's been a few reaction videos I've done for gurus, and I've just immediately been like, what the heck am I listening to? But Chris is right on. Of course, this is just basic psychology, basic social science here, and he's not a stupid man in the least. I don't think he is. He's just saying things that is obvious. So far, we're not really in any spiritual thing.
They're still at the starting point. They'd like to feel that they're at the 50-yard line, at least, you see. So they go to psychologists or psychiatrists, you see. And they say, I feel so depressed. I just don't know. I feel like I've wasted my life. I'm feeling empty. I don't even know if they can verbalize it this well. They may not even appreciate it that that's a situation, but they'll go to these psychologists, psychiatrists, or whoever, and positive thinking courses or something, and try to feel greater appreciation for what they have. See, they say, well, look, you see, you have a beautiful wife, you have a nice home. You have to learn to appreciate these things. You have to learn how to appreciate. The person is always questioning. Everyone is always questioning, actually. Am I on the right path? Because they're going so hard for it. But as soon as they question it, they don't see any alternative, so they have to continue. What else is there to do? What other path is there? What other goal is there? Our whole society puts it forward that this is the goal of life. Material sense gratification, name, fame, wealth, material enjoyment, economic development. So individual progress is seen in that way. We believe that if we have more objects of sense gratification, the more progressed we are. The less objects of sense gratification we have, the less progressed we are. If the guy, some people down the street don't have as much objects to enjoy their senses with, if their refrigerator is old and our refrigerator is new, if their TV is black and white and our TV is in color, or if somebody's got a beautiful wife and your wife isn't as beautiful. Or some people can enjoy all kinds of fancy foods to eat, and you can. Then all you're thinking. But anyway, people think like this. From one way or the other, either you're envious or you're looking down on the other people, and you get to compare how progressed you are. Either you have the nice refrigerator and the other guy doesn't, or you got the bad refrigerator. Or you don't even have a refrigerator. So one way or the other, a person is seeing like this is a goal. And then they compare their progress by looking at others. This is how you compare how progressed you are. You look at the next guy. But what is the rule of comparison? What is the ruler that we use? The ruler is how many things we've got, how much sense enjoyment we get. That's all. This is progress. So we spend our whole lives going for this progress. From the beginning, a person He's 5 years old, less than that already, and he's starting on the path. Go for it. Get more. Get more. Gimme, 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 gimme. Got it. Don't take it. Gimme this, gimme that. Gimme. Gradually, you want this, you got to go to school. I got to go to school. I'm going to learn computers. I can count a lot more numbers with computers, do a lot more things, collect a lot more, be a bigger man. On and on and on. Finally, he's 60 years old, 70 years old. He's got his giant houses. He's got his hotels. He's got all his money. He's got all this and that. He can be a Howard Hughes. Then what? His body's getting old. He has to leave the whole thing behind. That's progress. Progress is this. Materialistic concept of progress is this. You spend your whole life collecting things, getting things in your possession, owning things, and developing your reputation as a person who everyone knows and respects or whatever, making your name big, so that 70 years later or 80 years later or less than that, you can leave it all behind.
I'm reminded how when I was in college, I read, I still read a lot, but I wanted to read as much as I could in all the classic literature because I don't really care for contemporary literature or anything post 1960s. And I wanted to read all the classic books. And I would buy them and I'd put them on my shelf and they'd sit there and I wouldn't necessarily get around to it. And I was actually proud of that. People would come over and I'd be like, notice my bookshelves. And also I had vinyl, tons of vinyl albums. Notice all my vinyl albums, And after a while, I had to stop doing that because I was traveling, and you can't carry books when you're traveling. And then when I settled down, I still couldn't take them all. And I also realized a book on the shelf that I'm not reading is taking up space, but I'm not that impressed by it myself. Why should anyone else be? And the people who might be impressed aren't coming over here and looking at my bookshelf that closely. And I started changing where if I read a book and I like it, I'll keep it. If I read a book that someone's given to me, I'll keep it. But sometimes I'll read something and go, yeah, I'm not, this was good, but I'm never going to read it again. And instead of sticking it on my shelf and going, okay, are you all so impressed that I'm reading Joshua Chamberlain's memoir? I'm going to give it away to someone, or I'm going to sell it, or I'm just going to let it go and let someone else enjoy it and read it and put it on their shelf and give it a second life. I've begun doing that a lot. I give away a lot of books. I keep very few compared to how I used to because I realize that it's just stuff. And I'm never going to look at it again. It's just going to take up room. What is the point? It's just stuff. And then someday my widow will have to get rid of it. Maybe she'll read it, but probably not. But it's just like, what's the point? Why not get rid of it, let it have another life? Keep a few things. I hit that. And I've talked to people like, oh no, how can you get rid of books? And I'm like, well, are you reading all the books you have? Well, no, but someday I will. So they're just taking up space. And that is a very purging idea. Actually, this book I'll be keeping. I like Joshua Chamberlain, but it's just sitting here. But it's a very purging idea when you start to say, hey, my stuff is only temporary. I'm more than happy to get rid of it. He's got a really good point there about we collect all this stuff and then we get old and then what? It's kind of anticlimactic, really. It really is. So that's a good point. I would challenge you to look at your stuff and what you keep and what you don't keep. Do you keep stuff that has meaning, or do you keep stuff to impress people? Now, I'm not into this idea that this Japanese girl promotes, I don't know her name, who's like, minimalize everything. If you don't use it, get rid of it. No, I'm not into that. I have antiques and things I don't actually want to get rid of. They're irreplaceable. I may not use them a lot, but I have a tube guitar amp from 1938. As far as I know, it's the only one like that around. I have never seen any that even look like this. It was made for Sears. You cannot replace that. I'm not going to get rid of it. I do use it once in a while. I have clothes that I don't wear a lot, but they're for that special occasion that will happen. So I'm not into total minimalism. There are some things to keep, but I think there is a lot of stuff we put around us for whatever. But we should let it go, and then I find it sort of clears the plate too. It wipes off the palette, wipes the paint off the palette, and lets us then put new paint on that palette. That's what I find when I take books off my shelf. Now I have more room for new books, and also maybe different books. And so, yeah, it's something worth doing, worth considering. Okay, back to Mr. Chris Butler.
That's progress. That's a progressive person. It's not like nobody knows the end of the story. This is what's so ridiculous about this whole thing. We all know the end of the script. It's ridiculous. It's almost like we're cheating. We even have, it's like if a person has, the inside information, it's just like that, hey, you know what? Everybody's doing all this, and, if you can put all your effort and everything into this, trying to get all these things, and you can be, but then you see 50 years later on, the whole thing's going to get taken, you see? So it's just a trick, you see? So don't fall for it. And you go, oh wow, I know the end. I know that without a doubt that at the end, everything that I put my whole life into, I know that at the end, the conclusion of the story is that at the end of this story, everything I've collected is going to get taken away from me, including my name, my reputation, the whole bit. I'm not even going to be around to enjoy any of it. That's the end of the story, you see? And if you know the end of the story, if a person knows the end of the story, then they can say, hey, I know the end of the story. I'm not going to fall for that. I'm not going to do that because I already know the end of the story. If somebody came up to you and offered you a deal, okay, and this is a deal. The deal is this. You work, and for 1 or 2 years, you work and you collect all this money. Here's the job, here's the opportunities, here's everything, okay? Better yet, I make it even simpler. You know how they have those contests where people, if they win, they go into a supermarket and they can get all the things they can in a certain amount of time. They can pile up. You heard about this? They rush in and they get all this stuff in a certain amount of time and they rush out, okay? This is the situation. Okay? You know about this, yeah? Okay, this is the contest, everybody. You rush into the supermarket, okay? And you spend 70 years there collecting everything you can. But let's make it more realistic. Let's say 70 minutes, okay? Collecting everything you can that you can possibly carry, okay? And you run out the door, and it'll get taken away from you. Okay? But you see, we're the inside people at the supermarket doing the scam. We won't tell anybody the end. We'll just tell them the first part of the contest. That you go into the supermarket and you collect as much as you can for 70 minutes, and then you'll have it. You see? We won't tell them that when they walk out the door, they're going to have to leave it all behind them. That they can't take it with them. So the ordinary person is a fool. He doesn't know. He hasn't picked up on it yet. See, everybody's in this big contest in life. And they're all playing this contest of collecting the goods in the supermarket and running out the door. And every single one of them doesn't get to take it with them. If you look at your great-great-grandparents or your grandparents or even maybe your parents, none of them got to take any of it with them. They all collected all the groceries and all the goodies and everything and the houses and everything in their supermarket baskets. And then it got taken away from them at the door. Death. So everything they spent their whole life collecting, which is this is a contest of material life. The contest is who can collect the most goodies before it gets taken away from you. That's the contest. This materialistic life, that's the contest. Who can collect the most stuff before it gets taken away from them. So one guy collects 10 million things before it gets taken away from him, and one guy collects 50 things before it gets taken away from him. But they'll both end up with zero.
So Chris is
and
a
what's
little
the
repetitive.
Prize? Even the prize has to be left behind.
I haven't been stopping him because there's not so much I can say because he made his point and now he's just repeating and repeating. I mean, I probably do the same thing, but it's a little repetitive and not very spiritual. And as I try to critique spiritual teachers on this channel, and I'm not getting anything here to respond to, and it's just common sense stuff. Nothing he said is wrong. But it's just a little repetitive and a little basic, and I'm just waiting for him to get someplace. I mean, we're gonna let this go, and keep watching. But I'm just waiting for okay, where are we going? What is the answer to this dilemma? He's not giving it to us.
The prize is everybody goes, oh, he's a success in life. You see, that's the prize. The prize is you get to be in the newspaper known as a successful person. You get to be interviewed when you go into the city, different cities. You get to have books written about you. You see? So you get to be known as a success. But that's left behind too. You can't take the Star Bulletin with you. You see? You can't take the evening news with you. It's all left behind. You can't take the roaring crowds. Yay, you're a great man. You can't take it with you. The prize, everything has to be left behind. All the things, including the prize of, oh, big man. All of it has to be left behind. So you spend your whole life collecting everything. Then you have to leave it all. It's ludicrous. It's absurd, isn't it? It's the theater of the absurd. And what's really absurd about it is that everybody knows the ending. And yet we still continue to play the same stupid game. We still go along with the contest. We still get sucked in and try to be winners. Success means to win in the contest. And we fall for it. And death comes along, and the whole thing is left behind, and we've not made any progress at all. So the idea of progress is based upon what is the goal. So the materialist's goal is without any value.
We know.
It's useless, it's absurd. The real goal of life can be appreciated if a person knows who he is.
Finally, we get there.
That he's not material at all, but is actually the eternal spirit soul. And therefore, a person's goal of life must be seen in connection with his eternal identity as spirit soul, part and parcel of the Supreme Soul. Time's getting short, so we'll continue on this discussion on what is the real goal of life and what is progress in our next talk. Thank you very much.
So here is
So we're going to be
the continuation of this talk, or at least on YouTube, the Science of Identity Foundation declared that this is the second half of this talk. I don't know if there was any talks in between it. Wow, he spent 20 minutes going on and on and on about something that I think we all got early on and can understand. And it doesn't take genius to know that what he was saying is valid. And then right at the end gave us, well, it's to know this. So, okay, so far what he said is shockingly, wow, I totally agree. But uh, spiritually, I mean, um, nothing here that's profound. I don't feel anything coming from him that he's a great spiritual leader. Um, and there's no depth here for me, but it's not bad, you know. It's not gibberish, as some folks have said. He's on, and I could see what the Gabbards might have heard. And if we go back to, oh, when was Tulsi born? You know, I don't know. She's younger than me, but we'll go back to the 70s, early 80s, or something. And we'll I in that world, I could see how someone like this could be very attractive. I could see how she was born in 1981. How in 1981, without the social media, where we don't have access to all of these gurus and things, um, I can see how he would be a light in the darkness. It makes sense to me. It's not gibberishy, it's not new agey, it's just very profound speaking. I think all of us can agree with what he's saying. I'm looking for some spiritual stuff here. I'm just on Wikipedia. She was born in 81, and when she was 2 years old, her family moved back to Hawaii from the American Samoa Islands, and they lived there where they had lived in the late 70s. Um, so it looks like in 1983 probably is when she started following uh, him. It doesn't say anything about him here in what I'm seeing. So from 1983 on, and if you think of if you think of what the world was like then, yeah, I think certainly, or if they were following him before that, before 1983, in the late 70s, the world was different and getting ideas was different, and I could definitely see why he would be an attraction to them. But I'm looking for some spiritual stuff here and some spiritual wisdom because he says he's a spiritual teacher, not just a self-help guru. So let's get into this next talk and see what he says there.
Continuing our discussion on progress and the goal of life. In our last program, we were talking about how a materialistic person spends his whole life struggling for the goal of material wealth and name and fame. But
so before we go on, I'm reading the Wikipedia of Tulsi Gabbard right now, and it says that in 2024, the Trump transition team stated that Gabbard has no affiliation with the Science of Identity Foundation. Um, and that's all it says. I don't know any more. Let's just look at this. Let's look at this citation. Um, let's see if I can pull up the citation. I just want to be clear about this because I don't want to accuse her of being something. So so according to this article from Honolulu Civil Beat, a former member of the secretive religious sect is warning members of Congress about her. This is a member who was there for 15 years. I'll link to this article in the description down below. And people have questioned her fitness for the job because of the connection to Butler and his attempt to get into politics. Let's see. A spokesperson for Trump's transition team said in a statement that Gabbard has no affiliation with the Science of Identity Foundation. The quote, the repeated attacks that she has sustained from the media and Democrats about her faith and loyalty to our country are not only false, they are bigoted as well. Um, this person who was jumping on her said, look at her progression through politics. But that doesn't necessarily mean she follows him. She could just be someone this is her fate, is going into politics, and because she's been more successful, doesn't necessarily tie her to Butler. I don't think that's legit. But this person's saying that her allegiance is to him. I'm going to let you decide as a viewer if your views of Tulsi are changed by watching Chris Butler videos or knowing about him, or if she's still influenced by him or not. As I said at the beginning, it will always be an influence on your life because that's part of your life. How far you distance yourself from it and how much you change after leaving this person is a thing. I don't consider myself any reflection of Adida or Adidamda's thinking. At one point I did after leaving him. I still was very much in his world, but I've moved very much beyond anything he teaches, I'd like to think, other than once in a while something randomly may come up. I personally think Tulsi has moved beyond this. I wish she would come out and just say, hey, yeah, I moved beyond and I grew, as I said at the beginning of this show. And the Trump transition team came out and said she has no connection to it. I think she has, so this isn't a lie in that sense that she was a part of it. Is she still? I don't think so. I think she moved away. I think she came into her own, and I can't speak for anyone else, her parents or whatever. But she probably still has some ties to it. Hawaii is a small island. And they were involved in her 2020 campaign staff. And but I think she has become her own person and is not following Chris Butler. But that's just me, and this is something, as I said in the beginning of the show, that I'm wrestling with. And hearing Chris isn't putting that to put bed any. I'm not having a great revelation here that I thought I might. Uh, I would love to give her the benefit of the doubt because I know times change, and yeah. Anyways, she's welcome to come on here in 10 minutes and just straighten out and go, hey, no, I was a part of it and I'm done. I welcome her, and that's it for me. It's closed and we should move on and give her the benefit of the doubt and allow her now, as our director of the National Intelligence, to show how cool she is and to show us what we've all hoped we would see by her becoming someone in the White House. And maybe someday she will be. And if she wants to run for president in 2028, I will. I'm saying it right now. On February 5th, I support her. I'm interested in seeing her. I think she could be a good president. And even if she's ruled by Chris Butler, right now I'm just not. Yeah, this is not the reaction video I thought it would be. I thought I was going to rip him apart, and that's the honest truth. I'm just sort of speaking out loud, so you know. I was expecting this to be angry, and I was going into this preparing to be angry. Instead, my nose is just running, and I'm running out of juice. And I'm just sitting here going, okay, yeah, he's okay. Again, this isn't insider videos or whatever. These are public videos, and they're always good videos they share. But still, sometimes the public videos are not, and yeah, that's my point of view. Okay, let's get back to this.
That ultimately all of this gets lost at the time of death. So how a person identifies himself will determine how or what he sees as the goal of life. And what a person sees as the goal of life, of course, is what he strives for, and that in turn is the ruler or the gauge by which he determines whether or not he's making progress. So progress means going towards the goal. So a person who identifies himself wrongly identifies himself as matter, as being material in essence. This person will spend his whole life trying to obtain material sense gratification, the objects of material sense gratification, money, things, people who he sees as things. and name, material name and fame. He identifies himself as his body, so his goals are all connected with his body. He wants to give his body sense gratification, sense enjoyment. He wants to give his body comforts. He wants to give his body a reputation. He wants to give his name and his body fame. Like some people, their whole, one of the main things that they have in life, one of the main goals they have in life is to make it so that everybody remembers their name. They want to leave their mark on the world, so they put their name on the wall in the subway. You know? Other people put their name on the posters, and they also get plastered up in the subways. Such and such for president, such and such for governor, such and such for mayor. They also want to have their name. They want to be the guys. They want to be known. They want to be respected. Okay? They want to leave something of themselves like this behind, so they'll always be remembered. They want to have one of those kind of statue things that the birds make doo-doo all over. They want to have one of those things of their body. Huh? That's a fact. You see, you're a big man, you're a big person when somebody makes a statue out of you. So that later on all the birds can come and sit on your head and do what they do. Huh? That's the goal. Isn't that a fact? In your name. You want your name in the who's who. Huh? Oh, my name is there, Professor such and such, you know, along with about 50 million other names. Okay. Somebody could probably make a lot of money just by doing that one thing, publishing a book of people's names and what they do and how good they are. That's what who's who is. Who buys the who's who? Those who want to either be in the who's who, those who are in the who's who, or those who want to know who are in the who's who to also be cool or up there or whatever. Okay? You can print a book. I'll print a book with your name in it and what you do and how great you are. Just have a book of all these people. Or start a prize business. You notice, if you start, if you want to see a classic that just shows what society is all about.
So I gotta pause here and say that whenever he breaks and laughs, I don't know what he's laughing at. It's not funny. He's not a particularly funny guy. He's laughing at his own jokes or something, but I don't quite get it. That happened in the last video. Also, we're 5 minutes in, and we're still not hitting any spiritual thing, and he's dragging out what we already know, what he's already said. You know, I understand I ramble, but I do try to stick to the point. Can we get to the point? So this is not necessarily a trait of a cult leader, not necessarily a trait of a bad person, but sometimes when someone has a point, and they go here and they go here and all around the world, and they repeat themselves ad nauseum, I often think to myself, do you really have a point? Or if you do, is your point something that you can speak about? Or is it just one sentence, but you're elaborating with all this other stuff, and to try to distract from the fact that you don't really have much of a point? I know someone who does this. She said to me once, "Oh, I saw this musician. He was really good." Okay. Instead of then just letting the conversation be, she spent 10 minutes describing the theater to me and how this was a little theater here and people go to it. It was historic. I don't care. He's one of a million people who have played in this theater. I don't care. And how she went with her husband and she did this. I I don't care. It's irrelevant to how good this person performed on stage that you were there with your husband. Went on and on and on for 10 minutes. And then it was like, I'm like, okay, okay, okay. Just kind of being polite. And then she's like, oh yeah, he was just so good. I'm like, you really had nothing to say, did you? Sorry. Laughing at my own joke. Sorry about that. I've been doing that all week. And it's just like, you got nothing to say. And here is a spiritual guru who has now spent 20 minutes, 25 minutes, more than that, really harping on the same point. And we really only got to the gist of it in the last 2 minutes of the last video. Your eternal self, blah. But he's making himself sound profound by harping on the same theme over and over and over and over and over again. But he doesn't really have much to say. There's not much essence here. Now, that doesn't make Chris a cult leader. That doesn't even make him a bad person. It's just we need to pay attention sometimes to people because it verges on a word salad. It's like say the Jordan Peterson word salad. You go on and on. You actually have nothing to say, or who knows what you were trying to say. It's the same thing, except he doesn't do the word salad like Jordan does. He does this repeating yourself and telling little stories and belaboring a point where I'm 99% sure everyone in his audience can figure out within 2 minutes. So we don't need to belabor this point. Now move on. He's lifting himself up, trying to make him sound more important than he is by going on and on about this. Come to the point, start speaking about something bigger. How can we solve this problem? You haven't really answered it. It's a little... Yeah, it's not what I was expecting watching Chris. Sorry, I keep going this big sigh here because I just don't really know what to say. I'm just like, wow. This guy's not as bad as I thought. I thought this would be a John DeRuiter sort of thing. But it's... Because he was the worst of the worst so far. But it's not. It's more like Keith Raniere. Is that how we pronounce it? Was it NVI? I never get the name of his thing right. My brain just doesn't do well with random thing. NVIXM, whatever it's called. The one who's in prison. That Allison there, the actress, followed from Smallville, followed. We watched his video, and it was just like, wow, this is not what I thought. He actually kind of makes sense, but a lot of it's kind of like this. It rambles, and he hits a few good points, but then there's something else here that there's like a whole spiritual thing that's missing. Yeah, it's almost like Chris here is coming off like maybe a Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins to me is not a spiritual guru. He's a self-help guy who may have some spiritual ideas laced in, and that kind of feels what I'm getting is sort of this Tony Robbins thing, but yet he went in the spiritual thing, but we don't really get much spirituality out of it. I don't know, that may not be a good representation. I don't know, I'm going to eat the rest of my gummy worms. We're going to keep listening.
If somebody starts some kind of a prize trip, and they offer these two things, a certain degree of fame, it'll increase a person's reputation.
You see, we're talking about the same themes that we did in the last talk. This
money,
is such a waste of time.
a big monetary prize. If you offer $100,000 to the first place, plus, then they'll be in the media as having won that prize because the media will cover whatever is of value, whatever is real, and that is, whatever's, has to do with a lot of money. So if you have a prize, if you start a prize trip, for example, you say you're going to start a prize, we're going to give a prize for the best reporter of the year. And we offer, $2.50 as a top prize. Okay? Then, the newspapers aren't going to cover it. So you don't get the fame aspect. See? But if you offer a prize for the best reporter of the year, and you offer $100,000 for first prize, and $50,000 for second, and $25,000 for third, and $10,000 for fourth, You find the newspapers covering that story. Then you see you get the fame too. Then then gradually becomes one of the things, like the Nobel Prize. You get the fame and the money. You get the fame because of the money, because if there wasn't money there wouldn't be fame there, because nobody would cover the story. Then of course in that way too, you end up having your name known, like the Nobel Prize. Now what's that? It's Nobel. Nobel got a way to make his name known. He's so great, he not only gets a Nobel Prize, he gets to give other people Nobel Prizes. He's so great that all the great people get his name. They get to have his name on their wall. Now that's a scam. Otherwise, what is his value? Who cares about Mr. Nobel? The only thing he's done good, his name to fame was the inventor of dynamite. Big deal. So much for the Nobel Peace Prize. Nobel. So anyway, this is just a thing to show us how materialistic civilization, how they see the goal. What is the value? What has value? What doesn't have value? So this has value. Money and fame. So we were discussing how at death, both money and fame, they're gone.
Move on, Chris. Please move on.
They're temporary. They're as temporary as a body. They're of no value. You got to leave it behind. You can't enjoy your material senses if you have to leave your body behind. You can, in other words, collect all kinds of money to have all kinds of goodies, but if you don't have your body to enjoy those goodies, then what is the value? You just leave it behind and all your relatives fight over it like a bunch of scavengers.
That's true, okay. But can we move on?
So you leave behind $2 million or $10 million or $100,000 worth of goodies, and you've collected all that so you can enjoy it, and you're trying to enjoy it. And then you have to leave your body, and then all your so-called relatives and friends start gathering, like the crows, like the vultures around the dead carcass of their beloved friend and relative.
Oh my gosh. I'm so bored by this. I just felt like an old man in a movie theater. I was opening a piece of plastic. I have these cool things I just have to share my girlfriend got for me. They are Chin Chin's spicy turmeric ginger chews. Anything with turmeric and ginger is like my go-to. I just eat this stuff up. What doesn't even matter what it is. I have like tons of different I have teas with turmeric, I have food, whatever. I just love it. And these are really good, but they're really spicy. And I was just about to chew one, but I was making noise. So I'm sharing this with you. Oh my God. I've gone from the state of, okay, Chris isn't that bad from what I'm seeing here, to just being bored. I'm just bored by this. We literally are hitting the same words, the same topics, the same everything. Please move forward, Chris. Please move forward.
They're so stupid, they don't pick up on it. They're so dumb, they don't realize, they don't learn from it. That guy had to leave it all behind. They don't understand. They're going to also have to leave it all behind, even if they get it. Sometimes these people go through all these court cases and hassling, there's always movies and soap operas. There's always books written about it and everything. It's the reality. When the parents die or the grandparents die, all the kids and all the relatives are out there scamming, scrambling to get the goodies.
This is reality. But
not
still,
knowing.
Move on
They're
with your
so
point.
stupid. They're so short-sighted. They can't learn from it. What they should really be learning is, well, he had to leave it all behind and we're scrambling after it. Similarly, even if I spend my whole life trying to get it in the courts, hassling with my other relatives.
So essentially his message is don't be materialistic. That is the entire message for sitting here for an hour.
Dad, I'm going to have to leave it all behind too. That's intelligence. That's learning from the past. So, a materialist sees a certain goal. And it's based upon how he identifies himself. So a person who identifies the material body as the self sees economic development for sense gratification and the name and fame on his body. He sees this as the goal. This is a goal of life. Okay, is this understandable? A simple thing. And it's all temporary. All his goals are very temporary because he sees himself as temporary. So when someone asks him, what is the goal of life? Or what are you going to do in life? Or what is your purpose in life? He always considers or thinks in terms of this temporary one life.
It's interesting because the name of this talk is
he doesn't
how to find
understand.
the purpose of your life.
His true identity is eternal. He thinks of it as his one life.
We're
If a
slowly
person
getting there.
understood that his identity is Aham Brahmasmi, I am the eternal spirit soul, and I'm only temporarily in this body. I am eternal. I'm not matter, I'm spirit. If he understood this, if he understood I am eternal, the eternal spirit soul, only temporarily in this material world, and I have a life. I have a long life, an extremely long life, an eternal life. I exist forever. I will never cease existing. And this existence here is just one passing part. This is just one chapter in a very long, long life, eternal life. Then he'll have a completely different outlook on what is the goal or what is the purpose of his eternal life. And that purpose then gets applied to this temporary situation. He doesn't conclude, he doesn't make a conclusion concerning his life based upon the ignorance that he is the body or that he is temporary.
So that is
He makes his conclusion
That's how we find
on
purpose.
what is the goal of life. His conclusion on what the goal of life is based upon his understanding of his eternal spiritual identity as the eternal part and parcel of God.
That is the whole point of this talk, but he has meandered and fleshed it out so much with all this repetition. Oh my God. That I'm at a point now where I'm bored and trying to focus in on a guy who sounds like Arnold Horshack from Welcome Back, Carter.
Eternal spark of God, the eternal servant of God.
Kind of looks like it, maybe.
Then, for this reason, his goal is completely different. His purpose in this world is completely different than the materialist. Completely different.
Don't be a materialist. Okay.
So how a person identifies himself, how a person sees himself, sees his essence, determines what he sees as his goal. What is the goal of his life? And what is progress?
That's, yeah, how we see ourselves. That's,
If I know, just let me give you an example.
We don't need
If
an example.
I know that I will live, use an analogy here, okay? Like most people, they think that they're going to live, 70, 80 years, right? Maybe 90, 100 or something, whatever. I mean, of course, we all think we're going to live forever in this world. But, according to the general superficial thing, we all sort of think that way. We're going to live about 70, 80 years or something like that, okay? So, materialists now, we're playing materialist here. So materialist thinks like this. Well, I've got 70, 80 years. I've got 70 or 80 years, and I'll go to college for the first 50, and I'll go to college for 8, and then I'll do this for 6, and then I'll do this, and they go on and on and on. They add, till then, I'll do this and I'll do that in retirement, and they have all these things planned, yeah. So, what if a person in this consciousness or in this situation is told that you should make your goal based only on 1 year's existence? In other words, you're only going to live for 1 year. So you should make your whole goal in life based upon, and your whole activities, everything based upon this, that you're going to only live for 1 year. Then what's he going to do? He's going to say, oh, no, you're wrong. I'm going to have a longer range view. Right? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? It's like, he knows he's going to live for 70 years, but somebody tells him, oh, it's only 1 year you get to. It's only 1 year, so your goals and everything have to be based on 1 year. Right? But because he knows, oh no, I'm going to live about 70 years, then he has longer range plans. He has a longer range goal. He doesn't just make his goal, for that 1 year. Okay? This is intelligence. But real intelligence, okay, is when a person knows that I'm not going to live for 1 year. I'm not going to live for 70 years. So I'm not going to make my goal based on either 1 year or 70 years. I'm not going to make it based on either. I am eternal. And
So,
because I'm
question.
eternal, my goal then
What type of goals
is based
should we
upon
make?
this.
So we understand this, but what type of goals should we make?
My goal, my purpose, the meaning of my existence, everything is based upon this. Reality of my eternal existence.
But what
The
is this
reality of
meaning?
my existence as an eternal spark of God, and as an eternal servant of God, as an eternal friend of God.
But what does that mean?
Do you understand this?
Oh, yeah, we got it.
Not
I
very
just want more
difficult to
details.
understand. If I identify myself as the eternal spirit soul, if I know who I really am, aham brahmasmi, I am a eternal spirit soul, only temporarily in this material body.
Yes.
And this material name, and this material body, and all the material possessions, and so on
Yes.
are simply passing.
Yes.
It's just as like less than 1 second in the lifetime of the eternal living being.
Okay.
It's less than 1 second in his life. It's less than 1 second in my eternal life that I'm going to be having this name and this body. See? So it's ridiculous for me to put my whole aim in life to make this body happy, to have sense gratification,
We got
and
that.
to try to make this body famous or well known
But
or
what
with a good
should we do?
reputation or whatever. It's ridiculous. Just like it would be ridiculous for a person who knows he's going to live 70 years
Oh,
to
come
make
on.
his whole goal in life and everything based upon the foolish notion that he's only going to live for 1 day or 1 year. So what is the real goal of life? We've talked about how the materialist, because he falsely identifies himself as a material body, he identifies or he believes that material sense enjoyment and the making of his material name famous, that this will bring happiness. This will satisfy him, that this then becomes his goal, and then he considers progress, his moving towards that. But we see that even the most progressed of people are simply suffering. They're not happy. We can understand that the materialist, the foolish person who falsely identifies his body as himself,
Does he think his
that they're not
audience is
happy.
5 years old? They
Otherwise,
can't
why
get
are there
this?
so many rich people committing suicide and drug addicts, alcoholics? I mean, we don't even need to get into that very much right now. We'll do that in the future, analyzing that. But we all know this. So, false identification with the material body leads to this idea of false progress. Rushing towards the wrong goal, full speed in reverse. Or rather, it's more like spinning your wheels. It's irrelevant to reality. They've made the goal of their human form of life simply material sense gratification and name and fame.
Oh my
like
God,
an animal.
Chris.
But a person who understands, aham brahmasmi, I am the eternal spark of God, I am his servant. A person who understands his true spiritual identity as spiritual, I am not matter, then they see the goal in life as being perfection of their relationship with God, the Supreme Soul.
Finally, we got something. It's not
They
profound.
see that the goal of life, the goal of this life, this human form of life, which is so precious, the goal of this human form of life is to achieve perfection in self-realization. Perfection
finally.
in the relationship with God.
Finally, we get something.
That is
it's nothing
wisdom.
unique. There's no great profound insight here that I would expect someone who is called
Concept
Krishna
of progress combined. Progress, the idea of progress and the ignorance of materialism combined lead to so much misery. But when the concept of progress is connected to the wisdom of knowing my true identity is spirit, not matter, then the goal is correct, and it leads to actual spiritual happiness, actual satisfaction. So one's goal in this life should not be simply the accumulation of material wealth, name, and fame.
Okay.
Nor should it be to try to keep the body healthy forever, because that also is a ridiculous goal.
All this.
It's one that's bound to fail. Rather, the goal of life, the goal of this human form of life is to come to know God perfectly. To know God perfectly, to love God perfectly, and to serve Him, to be pleasing
I've
to
said
Him.
the same thing. I don't call myself
An
a guru.
intelligent person will understand their spiritual identity.
This is just
And they will
basic
recognize
knowledge.
that the true purpose of life, the real meaning of their existence, is in connection with their relationship with God.
And oh my
Otherwise,
God.
there's no meaning to their existence.
So he's already said that, and instead of then elaborating on this, you know what he's done? He's then tried to summarize his talk by repeating the things we've already had drilled into our head. He has nothing to say that would make me declare him to be any sort of enlightened being, Krishna, or a great spiritual teacher. This is just a guy who has some wisdom. He's read a few things. He knows some stuff. There's nothing insightful in here. There's nothing unique. There's nothing we haven't heard. There's stuff that I've said many times. I don't call myself a guru because I don't think repeating the same things other people do makes me a guru. This guy repeats the same thing, repeats it ad nauseum, and likely has a big ego. That's it. I'm not getting any guru stuff off of this. Nothing bad. Nothing really horrible here. Just basic, decent 101 spirituality for an audience that must be 5 years old and can't get stuff. Or he's just not that intelligent. But yeah, that's what I'm getting. Let's watch the last 3
Unless
minutes.
they can know God, there's no meaning to their existence.
But he's
Unless
just not
they can be
giving us
loving God,
anything
there's
now
no
because
meaning
he's got nothing to
to their
say.
life. Unless they're pleasing to God, there's no meaning to their existence. We were mentioning that one reason why people like to have their name, they like to be respected, or they like to be known in the community or whatever, is because they want to be loved.
Oh, that's a whole different story. We could go on 20
They want
minutes
to be
about that.
they want to be known
Oh, God.
because they want to be loved.
Oh.
And they feel that if I succeed in life, if I become a success, they feel that then people will like me. Then I will have friends. Then I will be accepted. People will respect me. What they're really searching for is a friend. What they're really searching for is someone to love them.
Oh, Lord.
So they try to buy people's love by being successful.
That's a whole different topic.
So-called successful. But this so-called love of people, or their respect, is based upon this temporary, illusory success, gains, is of no value. And it's so conditional. People love you because you're known. People like you because you're a well-known person or a famous person or whatever. This isn't love. They don't really like you anyway. They're just trying in their own way to also achieve the same things you're achieving, so that they can be loved by others or respected by others. So we should not chase after illusory goals. We must make progress. We must make individual progress in life. And individual progress means that we progress towards God. We progress towards the perfection of our relationship with Him. That we perfect our love for Him. This is what must be our goal of life. And our eternal function in life, our eternal goal of life, is to render service to Him, to be linked up with Him in loving service. Thank you very much.
You know, I agree with what he said. I agree with pretty much everything he said. I don't have anything even what he says is the goal of life I have said on this channel. But I guess I expect more from someone who is a cult leader or religious leader or spiritual leader or guru or whatever. I guess a cult leader you'd probably expect less, but I guess I expect more from someone who heads an organization. There's nothing here that is profound or insightful or unique. The way he talks is rambling and repeating himself, as I have done and I was forced to do by commenting on the same things. On the other hand, there wasn't anything horrible here, so it was kind of a shock to me. Yeah. So, here's what's going to happen. This is part one of a two-part look at Chris Butler, because I had a feeling. I had a feeling that I wasn't going to be satisfied. Now, when I choose videos for these reaction things, I literally randomly just go on YouTube and go, oh, what's the name of this? How to find your life's purpose. Okay, download. That's it. I don't look at them or anything, except if it's someone in India and I don't think they speak English, then I might just check to see if they do. But for Chris, obviously he does. So I just randomly, you know, grab stuff. But for some reason, I just felt like I might not be satisfied with this. So I have a bunch of small little clips over a bunch of different talks that we're going to be watching in the second part. Also, I don't really like watching one talk or even, one talk broken up over a day or something, as this might have been. Because then it's a moment, and he's thinking about that. Excuse me. I like seeing a guru over time and in different places and with different people. Then you get more variety from them. So we're going to be watching in another episode some clips of him from, just short little things from an array of stuff. And we'll see what we find in that. But in this one, I'm kind of like, okay, that's not what I expected. I'm just sort of like, whatever. I wouldn't pick up my family and move to be with him, but it wasn't what I thought. Yeah, okay. If you have any thoughts, please put them in the comments below. Nothing came up in the chat today, which is fine. Sometimes it is, sometimes there isn't. And yeah, look out for part 2 of this in the near future. We're going to bring this show to a close right now. I was just going to say thank you so much for joining me. It's nice to be back. I haven't done a live show like this in a while, and I'm sorry that my nose and my face and coughing and whatever. I was kind of worried I was going to start hacking through this or whatever, so my apologies for that. I just didn't want to wait any longer before doing another show or run something that's been pre-recorded. So, yeah, thank you for joining me, and I will catch you in part 2. Please subscribe to my channel. Please watch other videos. Check out, if you're watching this on another forum, jump over to YouTube where I do readings of scripture. I'm currently working on the all 108 Upanishads. I just finished a couple weeks ago reading my 91st, so we're almost there. And this is like a huge service, putting these all out there. And I have some other things I'm interested in that are interesting that I'm reading. And so, yeah, check out my YouTube for some daily stuff that I am no longer duplicating to other channels. And with that, I'm just going to say thank you as always for joining me. Jai Shri Krishna. Om Namo Narayana.